Well, welcome to Operation Grow Show, Season 5. Oh, hang on. This is just gone. No audio entry. Well, hey, hi. Welcome to Operation Grow, Season 5, Episode 23, I think it is, something along those lines. Hope everybody's doing well. And yeah. Oh, fuck this, what a cock up. Yeah, so, hey, well, how's everybody doing? Let's just go from there. As soon as I try to organize people, it just goes tits. So yeah, hey, Chris, how you doing? Gunter, how you doing, buddy? How things going with you?
Great, Pete. Thanks for having me again. Shout out. Chat, I can't get you guys up yet, but hopefully we'll get you up here in a second.
Cool. And hey, Bob, nice to see you, sir. How you doing, mate? Just before you're about to take a big hit, how things going?
Give thanks, man. Give thanks for life, you know. Keep up the great work, right? Respect everybody in the panel and chat. Really give thanks for the moment. Nice rainy time in Jamaica. You know, get like a nice hour of shower. Good to go again. So it's nice.
Brief respite from the humidity before it all cranks back up again.
That's what we need, you know. We have to be flexible.
Yeah, no, exactly. Hey, Lefty, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Yeah, just ready to sit down and have a fun show and smoke some of this banana OG that I just got trimmed up. And yeah, good to see everybody. Good to see Bob, and looking forward to another fun show this week.
Nice. And that's the banana OG that you were doing the cross with. That's the planned one for doing the cross with, isn't it? So that's.
Yeah, this is the number 5 pheno.
Okay. I'm assuming pollinated by a rise.
Yep.
Excellent. And Raptor, how you doing there, sir? How things going?
Hey, how's it going, Pete? Thanks for the intro. Going pretty well. Can ask for more. Wonderful Saturday afternoon. Yeah. Really enjoying the day. Really nice out. Yeah, actually got my HLG all set up. Waiting for the power cable for the minder unit to come in. I actually had to order a special one because it's I wanted to make sure I had enough length so that I can raise it and put it to everywhere I wanted to appropriately. And yeah, I'd rather have a little too much than not enough. It's I hate when any power cords or anything get stuck on a snag, or like I have to rely on the length of a probe or something like that. So it's cool that there's that I have so many options. And I'm setting up recently got my sub-irrigated pots. They're just 3 gallons. Mostly going to use those for autos. Actually got some autos from Michael Rasta, thank you so much, a couple months ago, and I just didn't have the space. And my system that I was using before with the 110 and the 65 gallons, if I would put it in there, from what I've been talking to with different auto growers, it seems like it might have not like that. It likes to be in smaller containers. I'll have to put that to the test a little later, but I wanted to give him like work within that space. So I'll probably be getting a 5 gallon as well, test that out. And yeah, should be good. Gonna be also doing the Loving in Her Eyes, but I'm making more soil and amending that. So I want to make sure that that's just right. So I'll be planting other things just to make sure. I don't want to mess up that run. It was something that was given to me by a close friend. And yeah, I want to treat them right. I want to make sure everything's set up accordingly. But yeah, that's about it for the updates on my end.
Cool. And JMF, how you doing, sir?
Oh, excellent. Usual Saturday, hanging out, ready to get my brain bumpy with y'all. Just in the kitchen today, making a little cup of RSO coffee and doing well on Saturdays. Sometimes I like to throw together a quick loaf of sourdough focaccia, so I'm doing that too. So Yeah, real simple stuff, but a good way to spend the day, especially like I said, making the brain bumpy with y'all. So I just feel lucky to be here with you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, good to have everybody here, and it's nice to have you on the show, Bob. Getting an island perspective on things, how things going, etc. Sorry, I'm trying to respond to chat at the same time. So yeah, my apologies. Like a big hello to everybody in chat. It's just like we're getting way complicated trying to keep up with that, and yeah, it's like try to do both. Just no.
Mr. Popular.
Ooh.
Quite the coincidence. Me and Pete were talking about going and seeing Bob last week, and here's Bob this week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I figure I could make it to see you quicker than you'd make it to see me. So
Yeah.
coincidence, you know.
Hey, well, I'm watching that travel list as soon as it's open to travel. I mean, I guess it's like so long as like on our side they've got, oh, you can travel to all these places, but the places on the other side have kind of gone, hey, I'm not so sure you can travel here.
But I mean,
Hi,
if we
welcome. And if you don't mind just staying on the plane while it refuels.
well, a lot
Say
of
hi.
people, what they do, they just book it in for a 7-day or a 5-day. And what they have now is that you have to be quarantined in an area. So we just be very selective on where we choose to quarantine. So it might be a nice mountain resort or a little lodge, or you know, if it's a shack somewhere, you just quarantine there, but everything will come to you. So you just ensure that the property is self-sustaining enough. So you have a beach close by or a river close by, and then everything else kind of will get there, you know.
Yeah, no, exactly. No.
And it's super cheap because the tourism sector did get a lot of beating. So they're very receptive in terms of rates and so forth, you know. So it really is, you know. So we've seen a lot of people come in to do like conferences. So if you have like an online conference and 3-4 of you need to speak and record it, then they just come in and, you know, book a nice place, and in the evening you can go down to the beach, and you know what I mean. And then
the
you still
worst
get a bit of
places
work.
to pre-record your conference, I tell you what.
Right, you get a bit of work done. You know, you still have a conference room where you wear like a suit and tie from the neck up, but below it's like shorts and sandals. You know, but that, so it's been, you know, good. People doing like stay home. They stay home from work. They're like, well, if I have to stay home, let me just go spend a month somewhere. So and it has really its unique opportunities as well. But I really think overall it's been a revamping of the self-sustaining, so a bit of bump of the self-sustaining energy amongst everybody, regardless of how it might affect you. Some little way you kind of want to, you know, see self-sustainability as a bit more relevance in your lifestyle practices.
Yeah.
So we'll give thanks.
Now, I mean, it's a good point. Yeah, this whole, like, it's definitely changed things, the whole lockdown thing, etc., and that going on. And I mean, what have people noticed? How has it changed how people grow? I mean, has it made any kind of changes that people stop to think about, okay, maybe where they're getting stuff from, and maybe it's affected how they've grown because your usual stuff isn't necessarily suddenly available at the hydro store or the market where you were getting it, or it's suddenly become ridiculously expensive, so you've had to look at something else. I mean, has it, you know, and things that have come out of people embraced, who started to consider embracing that remote monitoring more because you don't have to travel to places. It's, you know, less interaction and stuff like that. You know, the Peel growth system side of things, I was having a really interesting call with a large grow operation in the US. And I tell you what, it's as I was been saying, it's just all about data. That's all they're interested in. They just want to collect data on everything, so they know how to get that consistency, how to do it.
And just think about it alone. The accountants, your lawyers, a lot of these people, the upper level management, a lot of these people just really didn't need to occupy office space 40 hours a week, every single week.
Yeah.
You know, what you're doing, you can really, you know, so as I said, industrial wise, you get people spending a lot more time, you know, with your family. Whether a good thing or bad, maybe you realize that this person only brought me this far, let me kind of move on. But as I said, it's all a good thing. You have time to really, you know, make a conscious decision.
Because like you mentioned, like the 40 hours thing, like, you know, there's a difference between doing, office work. I say, okay, so as opposed to doing like farming or things along those lines, where you work to like construction and bits and well, maybe in modern construction you could probably do 24/7. But if you're contracted to do 40 hours a week, you can do that in 3 days, and get all the work done so long as you
And
deliver
super
what it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
But
efficiently. You're a happier human being. As I'm saying, yeah, these things can be really.
But when you're growing, how do you do that? Because you've got to be there every day, pretty much. You know what I mean? That's the difference when it comes
Well,
to.
what it does now, what I find that it really does, it increases your efficiency and your stocking system. So if you normally run to the grocery store or run up or order something on Amazon, you kind of have to, okay, let me get this now to bring myself through the season, or what local source can I find? How can I start making my own compost, making, things like this, locally sourcing my inoculants, or, getting powdered versions of stuff instead of maybe getting bottled, items. So it's, in a microscopic way, it's kind of, and you see people stepping into wanting to plant other things, because ganja kind of does that too. You start to plant this plant that you love, and then, hey, why not pop a pepper in there or tomato or, something like that. So eventually now you find the whole polyculture system kind of coming along, people spreading their skills. Like I didn't know I could use the same cloning techniques and make lime trees and mango trees. And I was like, hey, cool. If I can do this to cannabis, let me try it. Turns out this is how the system works. It's been years it's been done in agriculture. Who knew?
Yeah. No, exactly.
I think
tomatoes, you can clone anything. It's like, wow,
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, I think that idea behind, the thing about like office workers being able to do stuff remote. I mean, that's because technology's allowed them to do it, and it does allow you can still. I mean, that's where that freedom comes from the farmer that needs to be, when the emergency goes off, you've got to be there. But the fact that you can have technology, and that's the thing, that's the beauty behind like modern science and these developments, and it's getting cheaper and far more affordable, and it really is. For doing stuff
on the remote side, the increase in technology in the solar technology, especially like the battery keeping, and it's really helping a lot of the remote farmers. And then a lot of the machinery is also getting smaller, so they're very efficient, but they're a lot more compact, so they can kind of and then timing, as I said, having the grow systems that can really these sensors inclusion. So it's not just me going out there, yeah, the humidity is this, let's try it, so, and it has automated.
It feels like 75.
Right. So you have an actual barometer or whatever they call it, a scarecrow with a real sensors on him now. And not only that, but the great thing is that the parameters of engagement that will take place after it exceeds certain thresholds can be automatically kicked in as well. So if your fan system or your DU system or your irrigation, whatever can be plugged in as the protocol.
Yeah.
Ali, do I need to do like a clothes change, like a wardrobe change in the middle of...
Chris is doing it for his TikTok audience, isn't he? Isn't that the whole thing?
Yeah, I'm wondering. Like,
we need to do it. We're gonna have to edit in a drop.
This is some really good herb, man. I swear when I took the first hit, it was orange, and now it's green. What? That's some
hang
good
on, just check with one eye, check with the other eye. No.
Yeah, all right. Just making sure. All right. Yeah.
Dude, on Rasta Jeff's show for his 420 episode, I wore a different shirt. I wore like 8 different shirts during that whole episode. It kept changing. Nobody really noticed because it was smaller tiles.
But I mean, the other thing that you'd be amazed by these, through the other job I do, where we do a lot of satellite data. What's incredible is the level of amount of free resource that if you're actually growing outdoors, where you can use free satellite data to be able to observe how your grow is doing. And these satellites are updating every like 6 days or so. And it's a free resource. It's incredible because, this is the funny thing about all these satellites being up there is that they're trying to figure out how do they commercialize all this money that they've put up in space, because it's all great to have it, but then they've got to figure out how to use it. So really like people using the data, because someone will trip up and go, this is a great way, and away they go. So I would highly recommend, I should actually find some of the resources, but you can get all these agricultural overlays that they'll do, so you can have a look at crop health. That's an eye in the sky, and it's doing it for free. It's in the
Yeah, man, you really turned me on to that part when you were explaining the type of how your growth system works. And I was like, well, I don't have the growth system, but the satellites and all the data is there. I can just look at the graphs myself and kind of see what happened last year, see how our crop yields was. And it really kind of, I mean, I don't want to sound all, sciencey, but the whole moon cycle and lunar cycle, it really kind of brings in that tradition that we learn from the bush to show you that at certain times when the depression happens, you can actually increase if approaching it the right way. So if you know you're going into a season, you can really inoculate your ground, whether you have, aloe vera or whatever it might be, to help it get through that stress relief. That would be a better approach than trying to actually fertilize your fields during this season, because if you can have them stress-free while they're being environmentally pressured, it's a much better approach than putting fertigation on them during that season. So you end up with a much healthier crop at the end of the day, So
yeah. And
guys, Pete, are you familiar with like the degree day system? I mean, we use the degree day system for different different applications and stuff on the golf course.
No, not what I'm familiar with.
Has to do with like temperature and humidity and shit like that, and just the rise and fall over certain amounts of time.
Okay.
Degree day.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is when you go to one of these agricultural algorithms or calculations that you can do, and there's like there's rafts of them, and that's the thing. I mean, that's all that when the commercial guys are playing, they understand, they know all of these resources that are available, so they know how to use all of these algorithms, and they have the data input to plug into them to be able to get the outputs that make sense. And that's really like, how do you beat that? I mean, that's the challenge is, and I think that's where in this field, stuff like machine learning that's coming on, on leaps and bounds in that interaction piece, it can understand those bits and make it easier for us to interact with it. It's using all of that to then allow you and break it down into simpler form for you to understand.
Commercially, they're indoors. They're using like the wet bulb, the dry bulb. So they have a lot of different measurements that aren't a little different than what we're used to.
And a guy in Holland sent me a book, I mean, it's like literally that thick, and it was all on calculations for greenhouse management. And like, if you've got a shade cloth that's 6 feet high, or 6 feet from the top, and you have another 6 feet below that, and there's this weave and all the calculations to work out its cooling factor, etc. I mean, it's incredible just how deep it goes. And you have people at home with 2 fans and letting fat and hoping, but that's just it. It's when they have that mass amount of information behind it, but that's just following, I guess it's saying, don't know where I'm going with that. Oh, cheers. Some more tequila.
I'll notice on the subjects of sustainability, that's what I noticed from lockdown, is that I can be more sustainable. I was wasting a lot of money driving to work, working a lot of hours, and then spending money to buy conveniences to deal with the fact that I was working so much. And I didn't realize how much I was actually losing out on that equation, right? And I thought I was actually really benefiting a lot, but it turns out, the more I was spending just to ameliorate having to go to work and having to not have enough time and all that stuff. And I've noticed now being a lot more selective about when I work and who I work for and where, I actually do a lot better because I don't waste as much of my time. So honestly, what I've learned is the rat race does kill you, and that you're a lot healthier being intentional and being sustainable. And honestly, I learned a lot of that. I think Bob made me realize a lot of that. So thanks, Bob. I appreciate it.
The rat race is definitely death by 1,000 cuts. That's what it's that daily commute that just chips away at you.
Yep. Yep.
slowly does it grind you down over time.
Yeah. And for me, it was, dealing with a few thousand customers a day. That by the end of that day, I was so angry and so just ready to pop off on anything or anyone. And I didn't realize how angry I was. I didn't realize that was making anger my first reaction to everything because people were priming me for it all day long. So, and that's my fault, true. But this whole situation taught me to be aware of that. And I'm very grateful for it because hopefully it's not something I will, have to deal with as much in the future because now I'm aware. So yeah, I've learned, I think, to be a more sustainable person.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, I'd like to see. I'm keen to see what the advances are that's going to start coming out. It's, I think we are starting to see people taking this all a bit more seriously, and hopefully some of the pseudoscience stuff is starting to fall by the wayside, because that's only holding it back. And that's the problem. I mean, the pseudoscience and the bro science, but the bro science is usually more accurate than the pseudoscience, to be honest, because the bro science is all based on usually loads of observation. It's I've noticed this, etc., etc. I don't quite understand why, but it's usually got more logic to it than the pseudoscience does. And that's what definitely restricts it and keeps holding it back.
How do you feel about, what do you think about that hybrid hypervigor that you get in certain animals, like in the snake? Basically, all animals basically have that, where you hybridize animals, and then off of those hybridized animals, you end up with a hypervigor that's never seen before. You end up with giants, or a huge evolutionary step forward for a species. Like, we're kind of at our infancy with genetics, but a lot of other animals have been bred a lot more successfully in terms of the liger and the
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing about like mammals or animals in terms of the thing there is the real outliers tend to die. Do you know what I mean? And like it's that's the big difference between the complexity of a mammal compared to, well, like an animal as opposed to a plant. If your spinal, do you know what I mean? So it's the degree of mutation. So kind of maybe what we're looking for. It's just strange. I think you filter out the weak really quickly in the animal kingdom because it just doesn't survive. It can't survive. Whereas in the plant world, that recessive genetics, because often the recessive in the animal kingdom is usually negative.
Well, and when we say that's just due to the complexity of systems, plants tend to have redundant systems, whereas mammals often do not. Fish have two hearts, but that's pretty rare.
Yeah, well, that's just it. And the more complex the system, the slower it will. But the more, it's more difficult to do things to it, especially like at the human level, I guess. Even more complex. I don't know.
Well, an organic and environmental change.
When you talk about those snakes and that you're doing with those ones, anything that's weak that won't make it dies. You don't have the option to continue it in. It's not like you're looking for, that it may be that snake that died with this really twisted fucking pretzel shaped spine was also the most venomous snake that's ever existed. But you'll never know. But the thing is, when we're growing plants, there's real genetic fuck up that occurs also happens to produce this incredibly high THC profile, as an example, and so we will keep it going and sustain it. And it's not actually genetically strong in terms of that whole survival of pushing the strongest genetic line. The only way it's surviving is because we are artificially keeping it going.
But we always do that. Yeah, we change the goalpost. We as a society decide, rather than having biology dictate, what our valuable thing is or what our goal is. I don't know that spiritual enlightenment really has a biological benefit, but it sure as heck makes our minds a lot easier to deal with, as complex as they are. So, I mean, I think you redefine the goalpost of what is genetic success based on what use does it serve.
Yeah. The answer is C. So I'm just reading some of the comments there in chat. Yeah, it's a interesting one.
Well,
I-
in a lot of ways, oh, go ahead.
Are you seeing, I mean, what advancements have people seen in the cannabis space in chat as well? I mean, let us know, like, what have people seen? What innovations have people seen in this space in the last 12 months, if any? I mean, has the industry doing anything different to what it was doing that people can actually, significantly notice? No, it's 14 months, 16 months, whatever. I mean, it would be a shame after coming out of all of this and nobody's actually improved anything. I mean, like let's say Potent Phonics, he talks about SOPs. Has he noticed a change in that in the commercial space? I mean, Bob, when you go to these commercial facilities, have you noticed anything different that they're doing, or it's business as usual, no real change? Where is the potential for ancillary business to get involved in this new market as a result of everything that's happened? Can anybody see an edge?
Well, there's a lot more AI, a lot more computer assisted, and definitely a lot more machinery getting involved every step of the game. That's a general trend, I guess, once you go commercialized, right? So cannabis is not being left behind. It comes with the cannabis tax, of course, because these simple machines seem to be so much more expensive. But as I said, the innovations thereof is tremendous, So systems like yours especially will prove to be beneficial, especially for these guys that want to maintain their structure. You know what I mean? That's where it all comes in, all this data reporting and keeping track and know what to scale up, what to scale down, or the intensity thereof to apply when you're scaling up or scaling down. So
Yeah, I think that's where some of it gets quite useful as well. Yeah, you're going to
I would
scale
say
up understanding how to do it. It can help for sure.
I would say there's been a big change in, for lack of a better term, the sourcing of innovation. Again, I'm always saying this, but it's, I think, very much analogous to homebrewing back in the day. People started homebrewing and then started going pro. Well, I think especially with current times, a lot more people having spent more time at home, I think you're going to find a much higher level of skill coming out of the average home grower, much higher level of information coming out of the average home grower. I think you're going to find and therefore, there's also going to be products made available to them. Just like when homebrewing started booming, right? Now you could support local homebrew shops. You could actually have brick and mortar stores and it would actually pay for itself and make a profit, blah, 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 blah. The same thing is going to be more true now as we've expanded people who actually feel like they can be their own, supplier of medicine. As people have actually gotten to more gardening, I think that's the real market expansion. When they always say during the gold rush, you can either go pan for gold or you can sell shovels. Well, I think because of home growing, there's now a bigger market to sell shovels. Whether it's a minder unit, whether it's a light, whether what have you, there's now more people mining. So there's now more shovels and people need more shovels and better shovels.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's that's just it. I mean, that's often the bit behind this whole cannabis industry that goes. I mean, I think that, geez, I'm all over the show with my thoughts. That's where the real interesting bit is in terms of the revenue that the cannabis industry generates. It's not just the sale of cannabis. It's suddenly all these little ancillary businesses, the no-touch industry that all pops up around it. And then that's what drives the local economy. And that's where the money from the cannabis industry goes back into local economy and doesn't leave the country. You may be like, I think, who was it? It was Duckweed was saying about the Barbados setup with foreigners coming in to do the grow and money leaving out the country and whatnot. But then you need to, how do you do it? You got to have them be smart to say, well, okay, you might be able to bring the foreign money in, but all your labor has to be local. You have to buy from local industry. That's where it's all got to come from. So sure, you can take your profits out, but only after you've all spent lots of money locally as well. You can only hope that see why about shit like that over here.
Yeah.
Trying to happen, man.
Well, and I think this whole thing, I mean, for better or for worse, it's made people realize, I think, too, that the quality they can produce at home is on par with anything they can get commercially. It's just commercial has convenience. So, whether it's like I bake my own bread, but I've always done that because I'm a baker, or making pickles or sauerkraut or whatever it is, the thing you make at home, that's why home cooked food is so good. Home cooked food, honestly, made with love, can beat a restaurant many times out of 10. So, yeah, I think this is all it's really teaching us, is that we have more power in our hands than we think. We have more ability to change markets than we think, especially if we can collectively change how we think about ourselves and how we think about, what we can do and what we can accomplish. Like I said, someone like me, before all this, I never would have made friends with anyone on YouTube. I never would have reached out to anyone online. But now that I have, it's pretty interesting because there's a lot more people that I can talk to about beer with and microorganisms and all the geeky stuff that I like.
Yeah.
So,
and those weird cloning technique articles you stumble across online occasionally.
Yeah, I can't really say anything in terms of like industry. I'm not on that scale whatsoever. Small scale. So speak on that. Seen more people connecting and more shows coming up, putting out information. So yeah, I do see that as a positive. Just like GMF was saying, we'll look at a smaller scale. Eventually, that'll show more as like it'll get into another 6 months, a year, 2 years. We'll be seeing people progress more and more, adapting the things that they learned, and not maybe even relying on consultations as much. Seeing I've been hearing from a couple of consultants, and they're all like, the things we fucking hear. It's like, what if we like the best we can do is just have general like knowledge. Like there's a lot of that going out now. So it's not as more people understand what we're talking about. Like, while 3 years ago, when I was just like starting to look into it, 4 years ago, but yeah, I would hear a lot less of what we're talking about. And now it's just more widespread. So I'm seeing just general knowledge progressing. Like, so I see that as a positive. The less Bob has to work, the better, he can do his job, and focus on more like actual serious issues, and then move on to the next job and actual serious issues. Just little things like that.
It's all real perspective, because what you think is important sometimes, it's really a satisfaction game. So what are you gonna change your satisfaction? Because money can satisfy you, but what are you using that money to do? So if you're really using it to take care of your family, if your family is all right, do you really need that? So, and I really like the point that you hit on in terms of the interaction and just that information that's available. And it comes right back to what GMF was saying in terms of, we are more powerful than we think. Even trusting your intuition and your own skills. If you get a little bit of education, a little bit of information here and there, your own intuition will carry you right there. And it's a journey. There's like no destination. You know what I mean? You keep going. That's the whole idea. The only thing you really have is your experiences in life, So you just give thanks to the moment and keep moving forward. There's nothing you're going to take with you. You understand? So,
Yeah. I always appreciate your insights on things, and
so even when you say scale, a lot of the times you are the person I call for most of my mycelium questions. It doesn't matter the scale. I need to figure out how to scale it up. That's my challenge. But I have zero understanding of what's happening here. And you can directly explain to it. I don't even want a microscope on this and that. But just because of how you're able to, translate the messages is vital. So that's what I'm saying. Everybody has it, so it's no greater than your value system kind of shifts a whole lot. You understand? And once you get there, really, thanks, man.
I mean, I
Yeah,
do
well,
think it is a sign that the general. I mean, hopefully it's starting to work. The idea about educate the consumer, because then the consumer asks better questions of the supplier, and in doing so, that's what drives the quality in the supply chain and the integrity in the supply chain. It does start with the consumer, um, and people getting a better understanding of. What I hope is people like through shows like this and following on like the breeding bit, which and seeing how long it takes to do it. You get a much better appreciation of maybe when you see certain labeling on packets, you start to ask certain questions, and you may want to know a little bit more about what's going on.
And then you get to
Um,
appreciate probably your stock just as good as anybody else. Because if you're saying, well, if they're buying a pack from him, and making a cross, I mean, I'm probably
yeah,
can do the same thing. And if it's been growing in my environment for several years, it's more than likely going to do a lot better than a stranger. So you understand what I mean? And then when you can apply the principles now to really drive it home, it's a wonderful thing, because now whatever you'll be offering, not only do you have found something great for you, but now you have a quality product to offer, if you understand what I mean, so.
yeah. I don't know
Cool.
exactly. I mean, it would be it's that being able to. Too much tequila. Carry on, amongst
I'll relate in. It's like food and beer, right? When people became more educated about good beer, when people tried homebrewing more, suddenly they appreciated what someone went through to make a beer that was more difficult, that was unusual, that was, a craft beer. Same thing with food. When the food channel really came around and people started really watching more cooking and becoming more aware of just, of the real beauty of food and what you can have for diversity, suddenly consumers, having been educated, started demanding more and more and more. And so food culture really accelerated in our country. It helped us embrace immigrant cultures to bring in their food cultures. So, and like I said, food and beer are probably the two best analogies, just because it's, for me, just because it's what I know from my whole of my life. But the function is basically side by side as far as how people look at, I think, what we do and how our thing is going to progress along that same line. Educate the consumer, and the consumer will demand better of the market.
Exactly. And then also what it would be is, I would like to think that then the market starts to appreciate the consumer better, because you understand why these people keep coming back to you. The guys who get it, you understand the work that the people are putting in. I mean, that's what hopefully will then drive them to see it, is that the market will understand, no, they don't put any effort in. I'm not going to spend my money. You, the guy who supplied them with the genetics, maybe actually you're the one who's really got your finger on the pulse in terms of what's going on.
And I think in real reality, there is no way we can expect a total 180 right now. No, organic food, local food is just not going to be available for everybody right now. You understand? No. So if it's even a tempering system, even that we can slowly start to adapt and include some local stuff into your diet and things like that. But most people is expecting this dramatic shift. Oh, throw away all our coconut core and this and that, and no, man, you really have to grasp a whole of reality, and that's why education has to be the foundation. And once you find the proper sources now, then the move forward will be a lot more regenerative and sustainable. So I really, and you see, ganja now, cannabis is like almost the last frontier. The diversity is still rampant. There's nothing else that has so much diversity, maybe the human race, but there's nothing really else that has probably the diversity that ganja has right now. And it's really still there. So I don't like the race to bottleneck it real quick either. You understand? So the more education we can have, the more proper best practices. There's all these new terms coming out regularly, but whatever. The more we can get on that regenerate. I mean, I hear these words regenerative and sustainable, but until we can agree what these terms are, I just like what they're saying. But when we're saying sustainable, I mean in like a 3 generation, 4 generation kind of vibration. not only for the person, but for the soil and the land. It should be getting better as you go along, depending on your practices. So once you're operating with these parameters, whether it's JADAM, KNF, organic, ITAL, kosher, I don't even know, but once it fits within these earth practices, it's a regenerate, it's getting better. It's not making the environment worse. And if you're going corporate, it should be some sustainable thing that balances both being great for the earth. And I believe your family should be able for generations to come. I'm not going to say a man should be spiritually rich and economically poor. His Majesty, you understand, His Majesty really says that there's a balance that should be striving for. And once you're on the right path, all will really balance, so. As long as
No, I think that's definitely no, totally agree. I think we're seeing what will be nice to see, and hopefully it'd be nice to be able to get, those proper, and I think it's starting to happen. You're seeing people starting to say, oh, I want something that's a bit more stable. You're starting to see a little bit of, I want to be able to get, and to actually be able to go to a nice, when I say a reputable, like regular source where you know what you're going to get, and it is really stable. It's properly worked lines, and being able to pluck those and use them. Varieties. It's to be good to have that. That's the thing, is you're never quite sure what you're getting. It's still a problem. No matter what you're buying, we don't yet really have that consistency at the consumer level.
And maybe that's the key. You don't really need this, or you don't need that. You just need something that's nutritionally dense to keep you going. So if it relieves your pain, if it does this, that's the interaction that you needed. That's the experience you needed to bring it to, and you keep moving, So that's at the entry level should be clean, easily adaptable to your system. Yeah, you understand? So something that doesn't give you friction when going in and out, when passing through your system, whether it's food you're consuming, your relationships that you're having. We should all strive towards a more frictionless or a more, pleasantness in terms of, our interaction.
I'd like to be able to go down and to the local nursery and buy, where I'm buying seeds at the nursery, and when it says in the packet, this is what I'm going to get, and this is what I'm going to get. And I can make my own crosses with the seeds I buy from the nursery. As I said, for myself, I can then play around with it. And I am doing that. I've crossed chilies that I've bought from the nursery with chilies I've bought from another nursery. But, the chilies I've bought from the nursery are consistent. They are a stable, consistent one. And that's what I'd like to be able to do, is go in and just pick up a packet and go, all right. And then it does tell you on the packet that the nurseries are like, look, this is wild. You're going to get this is heirloom or whatever. So it's going to have a lot of variety, or these are, dihybrid F1s. It's consistent.
So how long do you think before we get there? Because I guess we can all agree right now, everything should probably be labeled, even if it's OG, diversity level. You should have maybe like a scale. And if we do have a scale, say on 1 to 5, how diverse is this part? We can all agree that 90% out there would probably be in the higher side.
10 being really diverse, where I've given you 9 seeds and you're going to get 12 phenos out of those 9 seeds. Like, if hang on, I'm only growing 9 plants. Yep, you're still going to get all 12 phenos.
I don't mind that. I kind of like that. I don't really have a problem. I'm not sympathetic to any direct. I really like to keep it moving. However, when do you think we're gonna get there? Because as we know, there are millions of varieties of tobacco, but yet still we only know very few. The red one, the red pack, or the green pack. You understand? You see the menthol or some. So there are millions of type of apples, millions of type of tomatoes, but really we probably only know, the Fuji, the Granny Smith, the blah, but there are million varieties. So in the stage that ganja is now, I mean, if commercialization should hit, I mean, do you think that is something that would be a 10-year, a 20-year, a 30-year? Because me personally don't see it going away ever, in my personal opinion. I'm not gonna say the red cigarette and the green cigarette won't come on the market, but the diversity that's there now, I don't see it going really and truly. It's like the last frontier, And
I mean, I think it's going to take quite a while. I mean, it comes down to that. I mean, when we start to understand, how diverse actually is the genome that's kicking around. Because again, it's all down to what people have called it. And people instantly give it a name and put it out there straight away, and
Well,
that,
as
so you
somebody,
get
as
this
somebody, as
double
somebody
naming
like yourself,
happening.
well, as somebody like yourself that has seen the Kima bar spread that's available, you have a wider. So that's what I'm saying. With your understanding of that vast spectrum of Kima bar spread, how quick do you see that quote unquote bottleneck in product availability being really market available? You know what I mean?
I mean, that's down to, I think, if the industry could pull itself together and work together, if the community actually acted like a community and pulled together, you could do it pretty quickly. I mean, it's in relative terms being 30 years kind of quickly, 30, 40 years, you could probably start to pull shit together.
That's
But the
good.
problem
Probably
is,
the technology even faster.
I won't be
yeah, and
around
that's
that then,
using
so
the
it's all good.
technology.
I
Sorry?
won't be around then, so it's all good. You know, no problem. That sounds good. That's great. You know, so I won't have to
But
worry
you know what I
about it.
mean? Because it needs all these, we need to get, the community is its worst enemy at the same time. It's this natural distrust of anything like this. And it's like, well, no, we need to get all of this together so that we can understand what we've got. Because right now we think we've got this incredibly diverse genetic pool that we're playing with, but do we really? I mean, how much of it is the same?
Oh,
How
we're all
much
just
of it
smoking
is
Chemdog.
really close?
We're all just
It-
smoking Chemdog.
If we
Sativa, man.
removed all of the genetic, if we removed all the names and just went by the fingerprints and then went, okay, so how much do we have here? Yeah, that would be interesting. And I think that technology is going to get a lot. Certainly, there's one of the silver linings on the whole COVID cloud, because they've had to do all this flow cell technology, the PCR stuff, that due to the high demand, the production of that's gone up. And so the average unit cost comes down. So we kind of spin a benefit. You benefit from every car now having LED lights in their headlights. That's a huge market that really helps drive the cost of LED light bulbs down. So, we can ride on the tailcoats of the disaster to get ourselves, but then it still requires everybody to contribute all this information in.
Well, I mean, I think put it simply, it's gonna. You see, like how the Gross Mitchell and certain of these banana strains didn't make it, but everywhere in America you can pretty much get something exotic like a banana, pretty much everywhere. So they have agreed and breed the Cavendish, one of those names, but
yeah, Cavendish, yeah.
Good. So it has better legs, it has this and that. So it's going to really get to that point when a place like Jamaica or the Caribbean or Mexico, South America, when these big grass, growing places find a cultivar like that has that legs that's long enough to get there, then you will see that dominance. Because just because of the shelf life on certain things, it will, kind of all. So even that will have to be looked into heavily when it comes on to the ganja. Really, how much legs does it really have? Like, why can't this herb never cure down and stay green? No matter what temperature variance you put it in consistently. It's like some, called chemo or some whatever, just get that brown nice, and it's pleasurable to smoke, but there's just something happens when it goes into that, second stage of fermenting. It has just a different response. So these things will, that will really be the determining factors in what's going to do.
And I think what happens will be very similar, like, as you say, like, you look at it being, I mean, you may find that you get like regional, national, like that's what the area is known for, is this, and it'll be done en masse. But at the same time, there's something like, we all just know the Cavendish banana. That's what we buy in the supermarket. That's what's everywhere. When you look up how many bananas in the world, different banana plants are there in the world, and it goes, okay, well, here's the top 10. So you already know, okay, there's more than 10 if they're giving you the top 10. So there's still a mass variety out there. And I think that's where, it's interesting when we have these discussions, you see the bit about, oh, it should all be free. And you go, yeah, but we're talking about it from two different points of view. There's that big commercial crew are doing their thing. And then there is the whole free home grow. I mean, this is that tomato law. You can buy tomatoes at the supermarket, but you can grow tomatoes at home, and you can do whatever the fuck you want with them at home. At a personal level, you can play with the shit and do whatever you want with it. And I think that's the beauty behind it. And that will still be there. And you'll still have the craft. But yeah, as you say, you're gonna get like Jamaica will be known for Jamaican weed as an example, and it will be this homogenous tourist smoked weed that's smoked en masse. But what you'll also know is if you're in the know, there's your lamb spread, there's this, there's that. You know where to get it. It's still there. That
Right.
market is
That's
still,
what
and
I was
it'll
trying
still
to
be a
highlight.
very buoyant market.
That's what I was trying to highlight, that the disappearance now, like the emergence of these long leg cultivars or long leg varietals, whatever, that will emerge as the commercial strength that will be seen everywhere just because of the commercial viability and the storage of the potency maintains, the efficacy, you know, whatever, I can maintain the structure, the flavor right through, no matter if I have it for 6 months or 9 months, it still has that. So once you find that in a that's going to be there, but the variety also now, or how the other chemovars and, you know, types would disappear. So like really and truly, you know, the Gross Mitchell really came in and dominated, and then the Cavendish dominated. So it kind of disappeared a lot, the other ones. Even though they are available, it kind of really dissipated. But I don't think myself, you would see that really much happening within the ganja space, just because of I wouldn't even say the hoarding factor that most people that grow have it. But, you know, we just have this thing where with this personal connection, and now there's something that we have to just, Vietnamese from 71, and, you know, that is a very, you know, it's kind of one of those, if it's even 2 seeds we have left, we're going to keep this, you know, and, you know, there's something, How much of us pop the whole pack all at once?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I really want to see what happens when the first, like if America goes federally legal and then like a big player really steps in. I mean, that's what it would just be interesting to see what happens. What happens when Marlboro steps in and goes, all right, we're growing cannabis. And we're not growing tobacco.
The red one, the green one, the white stripe one, the red stripe one, you know what I mean? Whatever. It will just be something that can be easily harvested, you know, easily, very commercially viable plant.
And you already see with the big commercial growers that they're not interested in growing flower. They're growing for extraction. They're growing growing for THC. They're growing for chemotype.
Exactly. Because it's going to have to go in all these food products, all these beverages, you know, whatever you might put it. It has to be just viable to go right across. So it's not only, you know, well, just to use the banana example. But it's not only ripe bananas people are getting. It used as the pulp, the flavor, and it's really used as a purees. So a lot of the bakers, a lot of your ingredients that goes into the non-artificial, the dehydrated banana products, the chips that they make with the dehydrated, you know, so as I'm saying, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes in, you know, down the line. So it's the same thing where this is concerned. You know, your cereal's going to start having it, all those granolas, and because the fiber accent and actually the omega 3s and 6 in the seed, you know, so as I'm saying, it has a very wide
Kellogg's Special K with the spelled with a C.
And I think people like me that are trying to make, you know, whole plant-based beverages are going to be seen as outliers, because everyone else, even now from the study I've been doing, everyone's making them from oils, distillates, extracts, things like that. Very few are trying to make it from whole fresh plants to quote unquote be more ital, I guess.
Well, it's just to include that whole full spectrum, and you find out, you know, especially a lot of the bakings and, you know, the products that we offer here. That is the thing, we don't want the leftovers, the riffraff to be making our product. You chop down 2 or 3 plants and that's what they use and make that product. You understand? So you find the whole product nice, you know. So it will get there, believe me, it will get there, because once it's available like that on that scale, my boy, you'll probably be able to go up buy a pound of these flowers very quickly, full spectrum very quickly, you know what I mean? The flower and your extracts, your isolates or whatever, you know?
Yeah. But that's just it, yeah.
There's like, if you look at like certain states, just the legislation is so poor. Like there's no growers' rights at all in like Las Vegas or Arizona. If you're within 30 miles of a cannabis retail facility, crazy.
You can't grow if you're within 30 miles. You can't.
30 miles.
Yeah. Or New York's
So there's all these little isolated little dispensaries in the middle of fucking nowhere because
And if
Don't
one
be
opened
listening
up
30
tomorrow
miles of
within 30
dispensary.
miles, now you lose your rate, so it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
And
And New
what's
York,
crazy?
you can't start growing till 18 months after the first retail facility opens. So they're not giving their growers rights at all until a year and a half after the first facility even opens. It's like,
See,
trying to
that's
get.
kind of where you want the federal law to kick it in with the tomato rights. That tomato grow rights at the federal level goes. It's tough shit. You can't do it. But I think that's the problem at the moment you guys
That's
have
what
is
has to
because
happen.
it's being done by state. They can set whatever law they want because it's going against federal law, so they can do whatever the fuck they want. But
And
when federally
honestly,
it goes legal, that just changes everything. Because if at the federal level they say it's legit for everybody to grow a home minimum 6 plants. Boom, at federally 6 plants each. Let's say that just becomes the case as an argument. That means what? The state can stop you growing 6 plants, or you already have that as your baseline to work with.
and it
The
also
federal
it stems a lot from the who is doing the legislation. So if it was more growers, more biologists, people like this assisting with the legislative, putting together, it would probably assist more. But after, these people don't, not to say that they set it up on purpose, I would hate to think that was real, but it just probably wasn't fully thought out by somebody a little more qualified or have a better understanding, of the whole interaction of the system. So it's just a hope that the new laws and all these young ones coming up, that's what I'm saying, I really look forward a lot of time to who is putting in these legislative practices. Now I'm really looking for that side of the ganja people to come out of the woodwork and really, encourage legislative approach that is beneficial and sustainable to, keep this energy, this thing moving. So it's really on that side we will have to come in. So even with the federal regulation that might come in, if it's still not coming from that, sustainable front, it still might find itself in more complicated waters than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Usually how it works here is it's based on kind of a home rule idea. So for example, the federal government can only deschedule. And what that means is they say it's no longer prohibited, but each state after that, because that's the next body kind of down in the list of hierarchies, each state can have its own say. So you could still have Iowa that says, yeah, we don't really care if everyone else is going for it. We're done. We're not having, or whoever. And then it can go down to the county level, and then it can go down to the municipal level. And each one of them can say no. They can do different variations. Some of them can say, okay, we'll allow medical, but not recreational. Or they can say, that's why there's still dry counties in some states, because they've just never wanted alcohol to be sold in those counties for whatever reason. So for us, it'll be descheduled federally, but then it'll be up to each local area to decide how to decriminalize, deschedule, all that stuff. And then the only thing the federal government will have regulation over is interstate commerce. And that's just as far as like, when I take my driver's license to another state, they take it as valid that I have a driver's license.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, let's hope. I see Richard Branson did another article on why the drug war is a failure, which is good. I do like him from that perspective. It's somebody who's a bit of clout higher up in the crowd over here who comes out and speaks his mind about it occasionally, which is great. I see. Well, then again, we're also we've come up to the hour. So if you we're going to jump into the after show now, because we do like to keep these to an hour, where the conversation will keep on flowing. And feel free to join us in the after show. Type as fast as I'm talking there, that's great. So yeah, on that note, this has been a great conversation. I think we hit some interesting topics. I think that was good. Hopefully everybody had a pleasant time. So yeah, if you'd like to join us in the after show, please feel free to jump in and join us. On that note though, GMF, where we can find you, sir.
Typically in the kitchen baking bread or hanging out with you reprobates or hanging out with the other reprobates in the neighborhood. We're there on Mondays if y'all want to come back. So yeah, that's about it. Genetic Memory Farms on Instagram. I'm always fermenting something or making something, fermenting weed, fermenting food, you name it. So if you got any questions, holler at me. I'm happy to help. Genetic Memory Farms on IG.
Excellent. Will do. Will do.
And thank you for the
man.
platform, Pete, by the way. You're a very kind person to make this platform for all of us. And thank you,
No
Bob, for
worries.
stopping in this week.
Yeah, no, thanks for everybody in chatting that stops by. That you guys do make the show, and yeah, we've got a new little store thing going. So please feel free to jump in and
Farms on Instagram.
grab a sticker or a mug. Yeah, try to promote the science side of things. We see your crystals and raise you science will be the the tagline.
Oh, by the way, this is the end of the 3rd-day cycle. If you're charging your crystals, it's a good
Yeah.
time to take them. End of the 3rd-day cycle, just in case you're into it. You know, it's really a good energy to carry through the spring.
Fantastic, man. Bob, where can everybody find you, sir?
Any one of these ganja platforms, definitely embracing organics on a Thursday. I try to stay truly, committed to that one as much as the internet allows. But pretty much any ganja platform, I've been really gracious and thankful. Everybody has allowed me at some time to, blow some smoke. So, give thanks again. So really give thanks.
No, excellent. Good man. Good man. Thank you for stopping by. And Chris, where can everybody find you, sir? Sorry, Ganja Grower.
Cheers, Pete. Thanks, guys. Much love, everybody. Thanks, Chad. You guys crack me up all the time. Yeah, Ganja Grow at IG. Much love.
Excellent.
I'm always hanging in the neighborhood with a lot of troublemakers around here. Most of you guys. So it's
And that'll be on Monday night, 12 p.m. UK time, which is what, 4 p.m.
Or
West Coast.
Pacific Standard Time, 7 Eastern.
Excellent,
Thanks,
excellent.
Raptor.
And Lefty, where can we find you, sir?
I'm usually here on Saturdays with y'all, and you can find me on Instagram and Cannabis at Lefty's Farm. Also, patrons, please get a hold of either myself or Pete so we can get your seed packs figured out and get those sent out to you here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we sent a message out, got a few back from so far, and yeah, we'll get those sent out. So it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Thanks for reminding us. So yeah, if you jump on being a patron, you get to have one of the ones. Whoa, hang on a second. Yeah, if you jump onto Patreon, I think the link was posted earlier, or I don't actually have it to hand, but it's also available on the channel. I have it as a link. Just click on it, sign up, and you can be part of get the seeds from the Operation Grow Show as we do the different things. But also on that note, Lefty, where can they find you?
At Lefty's Farm on Instagram and at Lefty's Farm on Cannabis as well.
Excellent. And Raptor?
Yeah, you can find me at Raptor Grow on Instagram, all lowercase, all one word. You can also find me here with Pete, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Saturdays, 4 Eastern and 9 UK. So yeah. You could also find me on the Neighborhood Grows, like we all mentioned. A couple of people here you will see often. Some of you see heading in and out. So yeah, always happy to have them all. And again, that's 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 Eastern, and 12 UK. Sorry, UK. We love to have a more appropriate time. Yeah. Maybe we'll work on a second show with something a little more appropriate. Yeah.
Excellent, man.
Thank you all.
Yeah, I'm going to try and be on the show Monday if I can. I've got Tuesday off, so I can hang around.
Oh, cool. Yeah. You're more than welcome. You got the key.
Excellent. And yeah, you can find me at PL Grow Systems on Instagram, also plgrow.systems on the internet for the Minder unit, etc. And Operation Grow 2019 on Instagram as well. And big thanks, chat, for everybody stopping by. You guys make the show. Thank you very much. Hit like and subscribe, and we will see you. I'm not too sure about next week. I need to double check. I might be going up to London next week, and so yeah. Well, we may not have a show next week. It might be a break. So otherwise, then see everybody next week.